Started. All right. Good morning. Oh. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nancy. This is the Erace meeting on October the 5th of 2024. I'm going to read the guidelines, right? I have two of them here of the same thing. And we can get started. Welcome everybody here and hope you're having a good day. Okay. Racism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, and compassion and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. And we believe in acceptance of all people and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to listen, learn, and not to argue. Next, I will read the land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimacha, the Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, the Lipan, the Apache, and the Comanche in Austin, the Lenape and the Piscataway in the Washington, D.C. area, the Wampanoag, the Nipmuc, and peoples in Boston, the Kahlua and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank our ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous. Okay. Okay, I think everyone has been here before, so I'll just briefly go over the format of the meeting. We keep ourselves on mute unless we're speaking. I will keep a list. Raise one finger to be on the list, wave it around. Trying to get arrange this thing so you don't see that big window behind. Get rid of the glare. We speak in the order of the list. Please take 2 minutes. Keep your comments to 2 minutes. Be respectful. Do not interrupt the speaker. No name calling, no profanity. You may ask clarifying question of the speaker, please, and you raise 2 fingers to do that. Wave it around so I see it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we'll go around the room and start with our introductions. And as I say, good morning. I am Nancy Moore, and I am in the New Orleans area. And I'll go in the order that I see you on the screen. So Beatrice.
Hi, good morning. Beatrice Souble in East Point, Georgia, outside Atlanta. And glad to be with you, coming to Erace since 1993 when I lived in New Orleans and moved here after Katrina and helped with my late husband to found the Atlanta chapter. So glad to see everybody this morning.
Thank you, Beatrice. Next, we have Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise. Been coming to Erace since the mid-90s in New Orleans, and then off and on now I'm in Austin. Gosh, I had to think about that. I'm in Austin now. Yep. Hi.
Hi. Next, we have Marion.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Marion. I live in a section of New Orleans called Gentilly. I've been coming to the Erace meeting since June of 1993. And will continue to come as long as I'm able. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you. Okay, Phyllis.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Phyllis. I'm in New Orleans, and I've been coming to Erace since the summer of 2008.
Thank you. Okay, these people have moved around a little bit. Louise, have you gone already? No? Okay.
I've gone
yes.
already.
I know people have moved around. I was like on my screen. It's this new I don't know what they call it, enhanced speaker. Anyway, I'm gonna have to get used to it. Dee Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee. I was introduced to Erase through my sister when I flew to Georgia for the weekend. And she was going to an Erase meeting and she wanted to know if I wanted to come. I said, sure, I'll come. And then the pandemic came along and Erase went online. And so then, because I'm back in Riverside in California. And so the one good thing that came out of the pandemic is doing stuff online with Zoom. And so I'm here. My husband had pretty extensive surgery in March and he's recovering. I had surgery last month and I got discharged yesterday. Yay! And I'm doing great. So there we are.
All right. Well, I'm glad your surgery went well. Glad to have you with us. Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa Roberson. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I've been coming since August 2022.
Okay, thank you. And Marla.
Hey, I'm Marla. I'm in the New Orleans area and I've been coming to Erase since about 2019 and just staying off the camera, just kind of miserable with this tooth extraction yesterday. So good to see everybody though.
Yeah, yeah, I had a tooth extracted. It's been a minute, but yeah, I was miserable for a minute. So I do understand. Okay. The next thing is, oh, I didn't finish in, okay, we go till about 15 minutes. It goes on till about 11:30, and about 15 minutes before we wrap up. And you give your closing thoughts, which roughly take a minute. Okay. What else? So I bring the reason that I brought this particular topic. I had some others in mind, and I'm really sorry that I missed your topic about discrimination, obesity discrimination. I would have really liked to participate in that. But I brought this topic because when I was watching the debate between Tim Walz and JD Vance brought up about how the immigrants are the cause of the rising housing prices. And I'm like, having worked in the housing market for the last 7 years, I know that that is not true. So once again, the that side of the aisle, I guess, is making untrue remarks about immigrants. I mean, immigrants have a hard enough time trying to get into this country. And then once they get in here, they kind of have to live in a second class society as it is. It's very difficult. And but then to have political parties blame them for taking your jobs, eating your pets, and now they're blaming you for the cost of the housing market. I just it is quite unfair. So anyway, I thought it would be a topic to discuss in Erase because it is a form of hate and discrimination to blame immigrants, no matter where they come from, for the economic problems of this country, because this country's economy, in my opinion, is set up so that there has to be an underclass of people for the economy to survive. It won't survive without an underclass. So, and then to turn the population against them for just trying to come here and have a better life, I think it's totally wrong. So anyway, that's why I brought the topic. And so we can get started, and the list is open. Teresa, and then Marion, and Beatrice.
Yes, anytime I hear some obvious BS like that, I would love to just ask him, how do they do it? Because I am an American citizen. I have a full-time job, which is not picking crops or any job, which I imagine is an recent immigrant, undocumented worker job. And I can't afford a house. So if they are driving up housing, I want them to give a workshop. I will learn Spanish. I will brush up on my Spanish. And I want to know how they do it. How do you qualify? Even when I was a teacher and I was making at least 20,000 more than what I'm making now as a full-time entry-level CVS employee. By the way, I am studying for my pharmacy tech job, so license. So that's gonna, I never really thought that this job at CVS would last this long, but yeah, okay. But anyway, back to the immigrants who could afford houses. How do they do it? I want a workshop. I want to learn. I am a nerd to my heart. I love studying. I want to study how they do it, because what I know, especially living in Austin, the last time I was a renter, there would be multiple people in an apartment. And that's the real workshop. How do you do it? I only live with my parents here, and it's like driving me crazy. So how do you take a 3-bedroom apartment and 10 of y'all living together, saving up money? I remember when one of my and again, I don't know their status, but they were so happy the day that they said we finally saved up for a house. And when they said we, there was a lot of them together, and I think they were throwing in money. So I can see that being a strategy. But you notice how this never came about when the Ukrainians were coming over, and some of them actually could afford houses because they were rich in their own country. It was just, they're refugees from Putin invading their country. But that's not even statistically enough to drive up the housing costs that Vance was talking about. But I definitely would have pressed him for some details about how they do it, because I want to know. I really want to see how they could afford, and watch him like roll the cherry pit. I watched that debate. It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Is my time up? I feel like
Yes,
2
it
minutes have
is. 2
come
minutes
and
has
gone.
no.
Okay.
It all of a sudden dawned. Oh, you didn't start
Okay.
the
Yay.
timer, and
Well,
so I
Marion,
went to
sorry I went
start
over
the
my two
timer.
minutes, but
Yeah, you probably were pretty close when I started the timer. But okay, thank you,
you're welcome.
Teresa. Okay. Next we have Mary.
Oh, shucks, I didn't unmute.
Yes, you are. You're unmuted.
Oh, okay. I know the sky doesn't have to fall on us to realize, all of us, that isn't this interesting? You're really coming down on this particular group of people, and then you say the most ridiculous things about the people eating the little animals. Uh, that is just so rotten. And I was talking to the television when the reporter was making these comments uh, about how this person was saying these nasty things. I also saw a nasty comment online We don't need any more people that look like that in this country. We have enough. So that was the big racist, nasty person coming out voicing, taking advantage of freedom of speech to say this nasty thing about we don't need any more people of color coming into the country. I agree with Teresa. How are these people driving up the housing costs? It's just another rotten thing to say about people of color. But I think it was lower than low to have people say something about these people eating the pets. So now some of them are trying to walk it back. To say it's unfair is a minor thing. It's just lower than low. And as far as illegal immigration, I remember I wore this shirt when not Bill Connect, was attending a meeting, and
Would you like to get back on the list?
oh, 2 minutes up already. Okay, I said
Already.
what I
I
wanted to
know it
say.
goes fast. Okay.
I'll listen to everybody else, Nancy.
Okay. Thank you.
2 minutes just flies by.
It does. Beatrice?
Yeah, I read an excellent editorial in the AJC. The guy was saying that debates are arson for truth. That really you have an environment where people can just say stuff. And that some of the things that J.D. Vance said, for example, that his party saved the Affordable Care Act. I mean, it's just, and because the fact checking does not occur right there, people who listen and they look at the environment, and you have two journalists, and it looks like they accept this stuff. And I agree completely that you do, for a person who has crossed the Darien Gap with their children on their back, and and the people who have come to this country, and this business of calling people aliens is just, and he said that over and over again, that they are going to be able to amass enough money to make a down payment for a house and pay. No, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it makes no sense. It begs and I really find J.D. Vance unstomachable, because he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and he's a completely different person now, so that he can get in a position of power. He's just no moral spine. And we need the work. You got in Georgia, we got peanuts, we got pecans, we got all this, and the people who come to pick those things have those special visas where they can come and work. And the President Biden, tried to have a law passed, or at least get them to have some rights like union people, so they can live in decent housing, because they don't, to do things for them. And the 1938 rule that was supposed to protect people said, well, they're not citizens, so they can't have these rights. We have a problem with how we deal with people, how we accept or don't accept or whatever. The whole immigration policy needs to be looked at. And so to just demonize a group of people on whose backs the country is now being built, the construction workers, if these people were sent out of the country like the other candidate, the Republican candidate wants, we wouldn't have anybody building buildings. I mean, we just narrow.
Beatrice, you want to get back on the list?
Later, thank you.
Okay. All right. We have next Louise. Does anyone else like to get on the list? Phyllis? Okay. Louise.
Just to jump on that great quote, Beatrice, that you said, debates are, what is it, ammunition for fire or something? Anyway, that's
arson for truth.
Yeah, exactly. Arson for truth. It's excellent, and it's true. And as soon as words are out of their mouths, it's out there in the ether, and that's Trump's big deal. He says it so often that everyone's not even, they don't even care if it's true. They're not looking it up. They don't, it's out there now. And that's really, I think, been a huge part of politics that has changed over the years. These outrageous lies that just come out, and prey on, of course, prey on the fears, you know, again, of people. And then I'd also like to mention, I mean, we all love our fresh fruits and vegetables in the store. If we got rid of all of the illegal immigrants, I don't think we would have any, because who on earth wants to work, what is it, 12 hours a day in 100-degree heat? You know, it's disgusting. That's not taking a job from, I'm not going to do it. You know, I can't, I couldn't do it. So that in itself is preposterous. And also, as you say, Beatrice, the building, you know, we wouldn't have any buildings. We wouldn't have any, well, I mean, that's a bit over the top, but not as much construction would be going on. You know, it's just preposterous. Absolutely. And I think that was my only couple of points.
Well, thank you. And you're right on time, Louise.
Thank you.
Next, we have Phyllis.
And you see Marla has her hand up.
No, I didn't. Thank you.
So I just want to say in the last week, I've seen 2 posts on Facebook from, unfortunately, people I know. One of them was a strange little rant about if we renamed North Carolina Ukraine, Carolina, then they might be able to find more money for it to help with the hurricane recovery. I don't know if the person who posted that was posting while inebriated, because it didn't fully make sense. The other one was like a copy of a, where it's from, oh, it's from Fox News, of course. That Representative Corey Mills is in North Carolina trying to rescue Americans. He claims FEMA is largely MIA because it has diverted resources for immigration resettlement. FEMA had utilized a large majority of the personnel who should be here taking care of this to be replaced or repurposed for immigration resettlement when we need to be focused on Americans. The money that could be used to help us has gone to Ukraine and to Israel. None of the right-winger people have mentioned anything about how much money's gone to Israel, which I thought was interesting, that I've seen so far. And so I think it's just another way that they are targeting really some of the most vulnerable people in our country, and they don't seem to understand the implications of if these people are removed, which is also the way unrealistic that would work, that we're gonna have a lot of problems in this country in terms of like work being done, crops being picked, buildings being built. Then there will be a housing issue.
Oh, perfect, Phyllis. Did you have a timer set on your side?
No.
No? Okay, very good. Marla, you're next.
Thanks. Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. So wild to me that there is this focus, I mean, wild, but not surprising, the focus on immigrants coming over, quote unquote, illegally, when the focus perhaps could be the multitude of issues Americans themselves have caused related to housing. I mean, I look around, and policies, obviously. Looking around in my own neighborhood, our market is actually saturated with homes for sale, and more so than there have ever been. And why is that, you ask? Well, multiple reasons. One, most of the folks in my neighborhood, and this is not ageist to me because I live here, but I think a lot of folks don't want to move into neighborhoods where there are mostly people 50, 60 plus. And so we're not attracting a lot of young families. And we also have a multitude of 1970s ranches that are also, again, not necessarily attractive to millennials and younger folks. But it is also our insurance costs, right? And so that has made housing so incredibly unaffordable for most Americans. in and of itself, and it's driving many Louisianans and other folks in the South out of their homes. And, maybe we could look at that for starters. The other thing that I was thinking about, and I think it just escaped me, darn it. Anyway, that was the first thing I thought of. If I think of the second thing, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Beatrice.
Okay, two quick things. One, in the state of Georgia, about 2 years ago, it was decided that they would not accept as many I don't have the right name of that lets people come in, H1 something, anyway, to do farm work and labor. And so they would get the persons who are imprisoned and we will bring them out and they will pick the crops. Baby, those brothers went out there one day, one half day, and that heat, picking that stuff, they say, we ain't doing this. So they found themselves without anybody. Stuff that we got blueberries, they got a lot of stuff growing in Georgia. Baby, that stuff was rotten on the line. You hear me? Because they said, we are not gonna be y'all got us in prison in the first place. We don't have freedom. You're gonna bring us out here to work in this heat? Some of them work 24, one day. One of them worked, some of them worked a half a day, saying, no, we're going back. First thing. Second thing, another lie is this fentanyl stuff that the undocumented people are bringing fentanyl. And that is not true. That is a big lie. Most of the fentanyl comes in by American citizens at ports of entry. Nobody's going to be walking, like I keep saying, through the Darien Gap, bringing fentanyl into the country. They're not going to do it. So there's so many lies that are perpetuated about undocumented people. First, what are we doing to help the countries from which they are coming? What situations have Americans in the past, has our government caused to make situations so unbearable where they're living that they have to take their lives in their hands to come here in the first place? What are we doing about that? So it's a whole big issue. And these lies that they tell on these people who are just trying to survive are just heartbreaking. And you see, it's just heartbreaking. The reason, why would you take your life in your hands to come to a country that doesn't even want you, where they might even put you in jail? I mean, so we need to do better. Look at the whole picture. Do seventh generation thinking like the Iroquois. Make decisions that are for the best all the way down the line. I know I'm out of time, baby, but I'm rolling.
Oh, you're right on time. I'm telling you, you guys are doing great with the timing. Okay, I have Teresa, and then I have Dee Dee. Anybody else like to be on the list?
Okay, so I thought that the housing market was really high because corporations are buying up property and houses, not individuals. That's they don't want to talk about that. My sister and her husband recently got into real estate, and what they are they first started with my brother-in-law's home house, renovating that, and then they bought another one around Danville, Virginia. I don't know whose house. I think they knew the owner there too, but still, like, you're talking about small town stuff. But for the lucrative investments or whatever, it's corporations that are jacking this up, and that are and it's amazing how they want to choose someone else. But skipping topics here about who's going to pick the produce, I have seen more than one documentary or story or whatever that says we don't want, and this is from the, I guess, quote unquote farmers, the people who are in charge, who are like, white people, they complain more and they work less. So I don't know how they think any of this is going to, and that kind of, somebody else's story earlier reminded me of that. It's like, yeah, I've also heard the same thing. I don't know how anyone thinks food's going to be put on the table if you don't have people who are in place to work. And why shouldn't they have rights? They are human beings. um, it is very precarious for anyone to come here knowing that they're not going to have, I mean, that just, even those of us who are Americans, you get exploited. You have people, I remember, true story, I was an insurance agent, and it was work from home, but occasionally they brought us in the office for training or whatever. And I got up to use the bathroom, and my so-called supervisor told me and another woman to, have a seat, that she'll release us together. It was in that moment I knew I was quitting that job. I got but I don't just quit. Okay, I make a plan, but that was the inciting incident. And I just thought to myself, oh, hell no, you're not going to tell me when I'm going to go to the bathroom.
You want to get back on the list?
No, I think I made my major points. I'm just ranting at this point.
Okay, well, it's understandable that you would rant. Yeah, I've got some stories about my early work life that. We have Dee Dee next. Would anyone else like to be on the list? Okay, Dee Dee, you're up next.
Couple of things. First thing, I watched the debate also, but I've also watched how folks that are running for office speak at campaign visits. And there was a serious difference between Vance's stature at that debate and the way he talks to people on the campaign trail. And I came away from that saying he had really been coached, and he had listened to the coach and was trying to be civil, but I was relieved when I watched some of the commentary afterwards, and the people that were discussing it on the commentary said that he was definitely watching what he said and trying to create a mood, but that was not him. And so don't buy it. The other thing, I think that targeting immigrants, for the most part, immigrants aren't white. And there are certain politicians that would love to make this country all white again. Okay? And so that's the target. And they're coming up with everything. And so blaming them for the housing market, which is clearly not true. And this article, I enjoyed reading the article because it gave the stats for what's going on and what really isn't going on. And I'm done.
Oh,
That
you're
was my
very
timer.
good too, because that was your time. Oh, you had a timer too. Okay. Louise, did you have a clarifying question?
Yeah, well, I just thought it was interesting, Dee Dee, that I've never actually seen or heard him talk in other places. And I was thinking, oh, he is talking really, it's coming out quite eloquently and whatever, even though it's bullshit. But
What's the
Don't
question?
buy it.
what's he like then? What is his normal rhetoric like?
He he has a casual relationship with the truth. I love it how Jimmy Carter said that. He has a casual relationship with the truth. Yeah. And he makes blanket statements. They're usually not factually based. And there was he made mention of facts checking during the debate. So that was a concern of his. When Tim spoke, you really didn't need to facts check him, because he was speaking from his heart. He was speaking on things he knew about, and he hadn't read it in a book before the debate, any of that. And so there was a serious difference there, even though Vance was putting on a empathetic face, but it wasn't real. And if you watch one of his campaign things, you'll see a major difference.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, he makes a lot of inflammatory, just to interject, inflammatory statements. He also makes derogatory statements about groups of people. He's the one that's responsible for eating the pets, um, different things like like that. And I mean, he's also an opportunist because initially he was against Trump and he was not a Trump supporter, and now he has completely done 180 degrees and is running for vice president. So clearly he's taking advantage of an opportunity and not really sincere in his motives. Next we have Beatrice and then Marla.
I just wanted to quickly say that when people begin to say who won or who lost a debate, and people are saying that, well, Vance was smooth and he's a graduate of Yale Law School and da da da. But it doesn't matter how you tell lies; you're still lying, and that would determine whether someone is a winner or a loser. And I just want to. The Atlantic has this wonderful article in 2016. J.D. Vance says Trump is cultural heritage. I'm sorry, cultural heroin. Never liked him. I'm a never Trumper guy. Mr. Trump is unfit for our nation's highest office. He's a moral disaster. He's America's Hitler. 2024, of course, he was named Trump's running mate. This is a spineless person who talks about cat ladies, who talks about people who, if you don't have children, you shouldn't have the same kind of voting rights. I mean, this is a guy who says all kinds of horrible stuff. Now, he might have put on a good performance at that debate because as Dee Dee saying, somebody had coached him and he looked calm and he kept saying, I agree with Tim on this. I mean, it was like I wanted to slap him through the TV screen. You hear me? But again, debates are performance, and we just have to decide. The most important thing is content and truth, not how well somebody says or doesn't say, or that they don't lose their cool. Because this man has if you've read Hillbilly Elegy, that's who that man is. That's in that book. He has gone completely to some other person. So we need to be careful. Always search for the truth, no matter what the environment. Search for the truth.
Okay. Thank you, Beatrice. Let me just ask, have you read Hillbilly Elegy? Yes? Is it worth? You're muted.
I'm on mute, baby. I'm just talking on mute.
I know you.
I certainly have.
Was it worth reading just for like informational?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right. It's worth knowing what this man has come from, what he has come through, all the drugs. He came through some stuff. His people came through, he and his people, because he was a child. He came through a whole lot of tough stuff. And he knows better than this man he's presenting to y'all right now. Yeah, I have. Yes, I read it. Yes, I did read it. And I can tell Teresa's shaking her head. She read it too.
Okay. I just want to know, was it worth me buying it? And okay, I will and get to it. All right. Well, thank you. We have Marla next, and would anyone else like to? And Teresa. Okay. Thank you, Marla. Take it away.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I put something in the chat, things that have been coming out more recently regarding JD Vance and folks he hangs around with are this group of men called the Theo Bros. And it is all about making the United States a white Christian nation, as we already know is really what his ultimate goal is. He says America is not just an idea, it is a group of people with a shared history and a common future. It is, in short, a nation. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. And regarding the Hillbilly Elegy, I have not read it, but I have heard a lot of folks from Appalachia comment that he is not a real one. And they are very critical of who he is and how he was raised. And they say that he has not remained true to those roots. So that's their opinion. Again, I haven't read it. I couldn't really say. The other thing I wanted to say about housing, I'm just thinking again about like my own nieces and nephews who are well into their 20s, early 30s, and cannot afford a home of their own either. And still, like Teresa, I'm really wondering how folks who are undocumented are coming in and making this happen and suddenly snatching up all of the homes that are available on the market. What my family, younger folks in my family and some older ones have seen firsthand is it is elderly white folks coming in with checkbooks and writing checks for homes in cash. And that is, and for no apparent reason, they don't need them to live in. It's that, and it's also, for example, in college towns, like my daughter attends University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, and properties are limited for student housing. Parents in other states are buying homes for cash, just like not a big deal at all. And then they're flipping the homes. They're putting their kids in them for the couple years that they are college students. And then they're selling them for a tremendous profit. And it's sick, y'all. It's so gross. It's so gross. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Marla. Thank you. Next we have Teresa. Anyone else like to be on the list?
I would just say, although I would recommend Hillbilly Elegy, you can rent it from the library. I checked it out, the audio version, so don't put any more money in that man's pockets. Anyway, I did like the book, but he
Good
is not,
idea.
that book is not who he is or presents himself as. And I would just like to say, um, this is the man who said he loved his wife even though she's not white. And when he said that, that was around the same time, there was that rumor that was false about him having sex with a couch. And I was like, I'm glad you like sofas. I hope she made you sleep on them, because after telling the world that you love your wife even though she's not white, that is not a compliment. And I know he was trying to say something like, he was getting flack from basically white supremacists. It's just like, you're not even married to a white woman, but he still could have phrased that so much differently than that statement. And it kind of reminded me of the Clarence Thomas's mother-in-law saying that he's so smart you forget he's black. That's not a compliment, but see, in their world it is. And as far as white Christian nation, this is what I recently listened to a book, Don't Think of the Elephant, the newer edition. And it basically, like, when you hear, especially people like JD Vance, and it wasn't him who said, it's some other white male politician who talked about why women my age or older even care about abortion, because we don't get pregnant. Is like, so no man of any age should ever talk about it, right? But he was coming from this conservative position that every man has the responsibility to be everybody's daddy. And I would love to tell them, you're not my daddy. You do not speak for me. I don't need you to protect me. I need you to do your job. That would be refreshing. Actually do your job, which is not taking away my rights or rights of any individual after we've had them. But that is the mindset of, oh, all these other demographics that are not white male Christians need to be taken care of, and they need to know their place. And growing up, I always thought that know your place crap was just about race, but no, unfortunately, it's a lot of other boxes. Now I will get motivated to rant again, Nancy, and then I'll get back on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dee Dee.
I just wanted to share a quick fun facts about Vance. When Trump was looking for vice president, he was 4th on the list. There were 3 guys that already had told him no. And Vance is an opportunist, is opportunistic, because usually the vice president serves one term and then kind of slides into the presidency. And so that's what he had in mind. But I'm cherishing the day that he's actually watching TV when Trump is talking about him, because he's not nice to him on the TV either. And that's a divided house to start with. And so I found that interesting, that he went through that many people and ended up with him because nobody else wanted to do it. I'm done.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dee Dee. The list is open. If anyone else has any comments or anything else they would, like to add, it is 10:50 right now. I don't see any hands being raised. I think we've said, having worked in the real estate um, industry for the last 7 years, um, you're right. I don't see how um, immigrants would not be able to, first of all, apply for a mortgage or get a mortgage. But, and I don't know exactly how they did this. I have seen groups of people, like somebody brought up living in an apartment, like a 3-bedroom apartment. It's like 10 people in there, and they buy a house. As a matter of fact, the house that I live in, we bought from a Vietnamese family, and there were 4 families living in this house. And they saved up their money and they bought a hotel in Mississippi. And they saved their money, and I've seen other families live together who have saved their money and made sure that everybody got a house. They pay cash for it. Everybody, they put all their money together and everybody gets a house. Or in this case, they saved all their money and they bought a hotel in Mississippi on the beach. Okay. Um, very industrious, but having worked in the real estate market for the last 7 years, no, they are not driving up the housing cost. They are, a lot of people had a lot of money during the pandemic, and that contributed to the rise of the housing costs and whatnot, with all the money that was given out during the pandemic. Phyllis, yes.
Marion had her finger up before me. Did you want to get
Did?
up?
Okay. Well, then Marion, thank you. And then Phyllis. I didn't see you. I was talking so much.
I don't mind admitting it makes me squirm somewhat to hear the comment, and I've heard it before, about making the United States a white Christian country. Just exactly how are the people who want this going to go about making this come to pass? I don't think I'm a Pollyanna. And sometimes when I'm having discussions with, a close friend or even a family member, I say, I hope that people who are non-white aren't disillusioned into thinking that we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, because as far as I'm concerned, that home of the brave is the home of the cowards. And it really bothers me. When I leave this earth, I'm going to leave behind children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren. And I'm wondering how it's going to be for them. And I know that there are some diabolical people in this country, and they would perhaps resort to methods that would be horrendous. And it's mind boggling to think that you have people sitting in rooms actually discussing just how are we going to bring this white Christian nation about. And I know there was something about that in that 2025 project about it. I read about 5 pages of it. And if anybody, I'll say it again, thinks that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, they better think again.
All right. Thank you,
And as I said,
Marion.
I don't mind stating to you all, I'm really concerned about these efforts on the part of people who really mean what they say about making this country, like, and it infuriates me.
Okay, Marion, your time is up.
Okay. I
Thank
said basically
you.
what I wanted
We
to
have
say.
I have Phyllis, and then I have Louise.
Well, if you want to see how it could be done, and if anybody on here has not yet read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Second, what I wanted to say was when I lived in California, the person whose property I stayed on, she started an animal sanctuary. She bought the house from a local family who was very proud of their being one of the earliest settler families in that part of California, which was outside Stockton, in the rural part of Stockton. And one day the matriarch of the family, so the mom and dad, the older generation, had their own house. Their son had a house over there with his wife and family. And she made a criticism about the Mexican family who lived on the other side of where I lived, because there's so many of them in that house together. And I'm like, do you think when the European settlers came here that they were all in like nuclear family housing, if they even had family with them? If not, it would have been like a bunch of men in a boarding house or a bunkhouse. Like that idea that there's something shameful about being community spirited, it makes no sense. It's like this idea that a lot of white people have about rugged individualism being the only way to be. But if you're not working together with other people, nobody's gonna have a good time. And yes, please read The Handmaid's Tale and then watch the Hulu series. Don't watch the movie they made back in the day because it wasn't that good. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Louise.
Actually, it was just very short. It's just I wanted to tell you or ask if you've seen, because Marion mentioned the Project 2025. Some very clever person did it as Schoolhouse Rock. And it's really, well, it's depressing, obviously, but it's depressing in a very funny way. And if ever you can look that up, I think you might enjoy it. Anyway, that was it.
What's it called again?
You know how the Schoolhouse Rock in the 70s, they do, you know, I'm guessing if you just look Project 2025 Schoolhouse Rock and it would turn up, I'm pretty
It would
sure.
come up.
Yeah, it's really funny and
Okay.
sad.
All right. Well, thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, if not, it's 10. Oh, Dee Dee.
Snuck it in there, didn't I?
Yeah.
One thing that really raised my respectability and level of creativity towards Kamala was the way she has handled criticism and turned it around on the people that said it. The classic example is the cat lady thing. And she took that whole concept, turned it around, made gorgeous t-shirts, used it as an art form, and he meant it as a put down. She took it and raised it up. And I saw a lot of that in the convention with her. And when she says she's going to do positive things for this country, she addressed every one of those silly criticisms that he came up with and turned them around on him. And I really praise her for that. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anyone else? One last, opportunity to make a statement before we go into the wrap up. It is 11 o'clock. I mean, it's a little early, but we could get started on your final thoughts. And I will go in the order that I see you on my screen. So I will start with Marion.
Okay, glad you brought this article, Nancy, and I just like to end by saying November 5th is almost here. In fact, it's 4 weeks. Is today not the 5th?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So everybody, I say, make sure you vote. I think it counts for something positive.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marion. Next we have Beatrice.
As usual, great conversation, good article, good to see everyone, and you stay awake, stay alert. I'm just anxious. My daughter's working as a poll worker. She says, but she was registering voters, and someone came up to her. Two things happened. One came up and said, "I believe in Trump." You believe in Trump? What does that mean? Another gentleman came up, three black women now behind the desk, and he bangs his hand four times on the table. I'm a Trump supporter. First of all, where do I vote for Trump? Nobody asked you. Why are you banging your hand, a white man in front of three black? You know what? So just we have to stay alert and stay alive. And you can find a Schoolhouse Rock. It's hilarious. It's hard. It's painful, but it's hilarious. If you Google it. Good conversation. Glad to see y'all. Stay strong. Stay safe. Do not worry. We got this. I changed shirts 3 times because I don't know what I want to say. Anyway.
All right. Thank you, Beatrice. Okay, Phyllis.
I did put a link in the chat to what I think is the video that was being talked about. Project 2025 from Schoolhouse Rock. So yeah, great topic. Such a lovely conversation among very unemotional, well-spoken, civilized, non-patriarchal people. I appreciated it very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Phyllis. Okay. Next we have Louise.
Phyllis, I was going to mention that as well. It's weird how we don't get emotional when there's no men around, right? Sparking us off.
To tell us that we're emotional.
Yeah, to tell, right, exactly. Yeah, it was very enjoyable and it was really great to see y'all. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Teresa.
Thank you. I enjoyed this conversation. And yes, I think I said this in the earlier meetings, but I already took the day off because the first day of early voting is October 17th here in North Carolina. And when I announced that to my mother, see, I can never really tell my mother when I take a day off because she will have my whole agenda. But this time I didn't mind because she and dad are also going with me. So I am taking the octogenarian teenagers with me to go voting. And I understand my mom's choice in this point because my father is a wheelchair user. So it is nice for me to help her to get him and go vote. And what they usually do is sit in the car. I'm going to go stand in the line. And it's like, nope, I have the ability to walk. I'm going to do it. And I will show you guys, I'll share a picture of the three of us early voting, but we are just that serious. So thank you for this article.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Marla.
Yes, great discussion. I don't have anything to add. I hope everybody has a great weekend.
Okay, thank you. And Dee Dee.
It feels really good to be in a comfortable room with like-thinking women, and I miss this a lot, a lot. And so I'm glad that you guys hung in there with me and kept sending the connection information. And so it's good to be back, and I like that. We've been watching in the mail for our mail-in ballots. And if you guys can get hold of a mail-in ballot, I mean, everybody in California gets one, but every state isn't like that. And so, but if you can get them, mail them in, because then you know it got there. And we have this box outside of our registrar's office that's like a steel trap. Okay. It is. It's like 18 gauge steel. It's incredible. Nobody can get in that thing. And we can hand drop them off if we don't trust the mail also. And so I like the options that we have. And so we'll be voting as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, thank you. I want to thank all of you for coming. I do want to kind of address something that Beatrice said about poll workers. My daughter is a poll worker, and her precinct was West Wego. And she said she requested a change. So now she's moved from West Wego to Harvey. She said because she could not take, number one, the little dirty tricks that they would do out there in West Wego to keep people from voting. And then just the clientele, the of people that are in the voting district that she was working in, that she didn't feel safe. So she requested a change to go to a different voting district, a different in Harvey, over by the expressway by West Jeff High School, somewhere over in that area. But she said she couldn't deal with West Wego anymore. It was just that bad. So that is something to think about as election day approaches, and like vote, just vote, and just make sure your voice is heard. Okay, well, thank you all. It's a short meeting, but it was good. Like I said, it was no a whole lot of controversy and, like I said, emotion and just off the wall stuff that we normally deal with and whatnot. So you can stop